Hi, Kris. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, James. Really nice of you to have me. Great to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I'm excited for this conversation. So, in a niche that's drowning in Lambos and screenshots, you've built practically the anti-hype business. You tell people trading is hard, boring, and slower than promised, and you'll happily refund a third of your buyers. Impossibly the hypiest niche on the internet. Why does that work?
Yeah, that is a great question. I guess the thing most online businesses are going to ask is like, how do I convert more of the people that arrive on my site or my YouTube or whatever? But I kind of flip that around and I ask, how do I make sure the people who convert are the people I actually want? There's the refund policy, the course that like literally talks people out of buying the membership. That's really the whole key to building the culture that we build inside the membership. And I think if you think about what you want from like a tight-knit sort of smallish membership community, a mismatched customer is not just a missed opportunity. Like they're actually negative value inside your community. Like they'll consume, disproportionate amount of support. They'll churn after a couple of months. They'll complain because reality doesn't match what they were expecting. It changes the whole tone of the thing, So, and you really don't want that pressure to, change what you've built into something that you never wanted to build in the first place. So, sometimes a refund is like the absolute best thing you can do. And I mean, the culture is really everything inside that community. Like if my whole view is like, if I can get enough of the right people in a room together and they start like creating value for one another, that really becomes self-fulfilling, like that stops being all about me and becomes more about, well, I'm one person among many at that point. It's a really nice, high value, high trust sort of culture in there.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And because it seems so like counterintuitive to, like basically put those obstacles in the way whilst you're building, like, is that something that you figured out over time and experience? Or is it something that you just started out straight away? Were you getting buyers into your community and thinking, they're not the right fit. I need to do something about this. I need to, reshape beliefs, put that, and then you put that into that program that you sort of jokingly call the brainwashing program.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I could say it was like, planned and orchestrated from the start, but it was really built as we went along, learning things. Like we had people coming into the community who just had the completely wrong expectations. We found that a lot of people came in with the same questions and the same misconceptions, and most people have the same false assumptions, really. And we decided that the best way to kind of help everyone get over that point in their journey would be to just create a front-end course that does it for us. Because otherwise we're answering the same questions in the community all the time, over and over again. So we kind of backed into it after figuring out where everyone was getting tripped up. But the nice thing is it doubles as that really nice cultural filter as well. If people don't want to hear the message or they're not ready for it, then they're the people who are going to refund the course and not come any further. And that's a great result. That's a good result. In fact, like I always tell people, trading is, this is not my line. This is a line that someone told me long ago. Like trading is the hardest way to make easy money, and it's definitely not for everybody. And so when people come and I try to give them, a solid grounding in what it's really like and what they can expect, a perfectly rational response to that is, hey, this is not for me. I want out. Can I have my money back? And that's perfect. Like that's great. I feel like if that happens, I've done a good thing. And I don't mind that I don't get to keep that person's money. That's fine. That's a great outcome. Because the people who do become drawn to it more after knowing what it's really like, well then, it's like, welcome to the madhouse. You're just like me. Come and join. We'll hang out and we'll do crazy things together.
So, I love that. It sounds like you are very focused and intentional about the culture that you build. So yeah, really cool.
Well, my view is like that. like I spend a lot of time in that community. It's a place that I want to hang out. So, you know, I'm building the culture that I want to be a part of. So it's very important.
Yeah. Nice. You were so take me back. So you were equity partner at a Sydney trading firm, like doing well. You sold your stake, bought a block of land out there in the country in Australia,
Yeah, that's right.
and then went all in. So went all in on what you were doing trading, and then basically thought, why don't I show other people what I'm doing? And then that became Robot Wealth. Like, take me through that. What sort of happened in that transition?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't go back all the way to the start when I started, got into trading and finance and all of that from the start, but that's probably not that interesting for your audience. But that transition was really driven by personal reasons. I was living and working in Sydney. My wife and I we just had our first couple of kids, and it was clear to us both that we just didn't want to raise them in Sydney. Had a real pull to go back to the country where I grew up. Well, we're actually on the other side of the country from where I grew up, but country lifestyle and all of that sort of thing. So very much driven by personal reasons. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like the transition into doing Robot Wealth full time, I think the point I would make is that like I didn't go into that like choosing a market and trying to manufacture a product to fit it. I found a way to make the work that I was going to be doing and that I already wanted to be doing like economically sustainable. Like I moved out here, I was always going to run my own book. I was always going to trade for myself. And I wanted to build something that could like supplement that income. And I can talk more about why that's an important idea and why I encourage other traders to do the same thing. But yeah, it's there came a point when I was doing that, and I just realized, oh, hang on a sec, people will actually pay me to not only look at the stuff I'm producing and I'm researching and I'm building, but they would like to be a part of it. Like they'd like a seat at the table. They would like input. They'd like to watch it happen. Which is really interesting, right? Like I'm not handing people a finished product. We do a bit of that, but a lot of what we do is like showing people the process. Run a webinar every few weeks where people sort of see, the dead ends, the mistakes, as well as the actual outputs. And a lot of those outputs get built up over time. Like I think we're going to talk a little bit later about one of the things we built that started back in 2019. We didn't even know if it was going to work, and now it's by far the best thing that we do. So yeah, it's all very organic, I guess. And yeah, it wasn't sort of planned in advance, but there was just a moment where I realized that people would like to be a part of what I'm doing, and I can make that happen.
Yeah, really cool. Tell me a little bit about. So every member starts with, the brainwashing course that you call it. What does that actually do then? So, we kind of touched on it, but why is the filter the whole strategy? Tell me more about, how that works.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, so for people in your audience who maybe aren't that familiar with the trading scene, if you go out on the internet and you look at trading content, it's really, that stuff is really a really efficient machine for misleading otherwise very smart people. I was one of those people 20 years ago as well. So, if you've got a bit of a technical background, you arrive, you see complicated sounding things like, indicator combinations, back testing, parameter optimization, all of this sort of stuff. And a technical person will look at that and go, okay, that's productive work. It looks like engineering. So engineers trust that sort of thing. But it's not really productive work, and I think that's the trap that gets people. So what the course does is it tries to sort of back up a little bit and go deep on all of the what would you say, the assumptions that sort of underlie all that stuff. So things like this assumption that the future resembles the past in enough detail that you can exploit it by buying and selling things. Things like a pattern is the same as an actual mechanism that would pay you in the market, something like that. And we really try to show why those things are false. So a lot of the course is really just undoing what people learned by being in contact with, the sort of mean of the internet's trading content, and then we kind of rebuild from that. So we try to show people where a trading edge actually comes from, the sorts of things you can do in the market that are likely to pay you, and it's usually like all of the I guess, noisy, awkward, unglamorous stuff that is actually what's left available to solo traders like us, which is an unsexy message in itself, right? Like people want the high performing thing, but we sort of show people how to exploit things that are realistically available to them and then put them together in a way that will produce a good outcome, rather than letting like one single thing do all the heavy lifting for them. So yeah, in short, we teach them how to put it together and treat it like a real business. That's the core of it, really.
That makes total sense. That's really interesting. There's some interesting sort of nuggets in there that even I would, I don't understand before you've just kind of like explained that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. And then, you kind of say like your ideal member needs a year of being burnt before they're ready for the truths that you basically drop, when you're taking them through that process. How do you market to people who, they're not ready to believe that message yet?
Yeah, that's a good question too. And the answer to that is like, I don't go to a lot of effort to market to those people. Like, I don't think, number one, I don't think it's my job to convince them. And number two, I don't think it's a thing I could do very well unless people are ready to actually hear that message. So basically, I try to put good, useful material into the world. I say what I think is true, and then I let the people's actual lived experience do the selling. So, you imagine someone comes along and finds Robert Wealth and thinks, this sounds incredibly boring. This other trading person over here says that I can make 5% in a week, so they go and do that thing. But what's going to happen is like 6 or 12 months later, the reality is going to bite for that person. And then they're going to be much more open to hearing a message like mine. And then my article is still out there at the same time. They can come back and they can sort of revisit and re-engage. So so I'm not trying to overcome those objections as such. I'm really letting reality overcome them, because they do. Reality does overcome that stuff eventually for everyone.
You're filtering through to the people who basically are ready and are the right fit. And you mentioned, you're putting value out, putting that messaging out that speaks to the right people. Your whole machine is basically a blog, a Substack, and 160-page case study, and then along with your email list. Like, there's no ads, no big social media presence. What's the real asset that you've built here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, there's a couple of things there. I think the obvious answer would be like the audience is the asset, but I don't think that's the right answer, because you can buy reach, right? Like anyone can go out and buy and get themselves an audience by buying ads or whatever. So I don't think enormous followings mean much if no one cares what you have to say. So what we have at Robert Wealth is a relatively small number of people who have, watched in sometimes excruciating detail the things I say and think for years at a time. So like there's this density of trust there rather than reach, and that works, right? Like I'd much rather have 10 or 15,000 people who know exactly what we stand for, which we're very, very clear about, rather than like 500,000 followers who vaguely recognise the logo or whatever. So I think like that trust capital is a legitimate asset in its own right. There's years of research, tools, code, writing, all of that stuff is a big deal. The community capital is massive as well. So the community is slightly different from the audience, right? Like the community is the people who are actually in the group doing the thing, and that's I guess most people sort of look at when they come to our website, they probably look at the fact that we have a community and they go, oh, that's nice. But I've learned that the community is actually the thing that people who've been in there for a while actually start to value more than anything. We have these members who have, any member who's been there for 6 or 12 months has come a hell of a long way in a short space of time. And you'll find that they are helping other members, they're solving problems, they're sharing implementation details. It's quite incredible. We had a guy the other day. I'll back up a bit. We've got this one strategy that trades a broad basket of US equities, and one of the things that can sort of derail it is if you have a position in a stock that becomes a target for a merger acquisition. You can end up having both the acquirer and the acquiree in your book on the same side. So you end up with basically a double-sized position or something. And so, the only real way to get around that is like we're trawling, news services and blacklisting those names and whatnot. Someone just built like an LLM tool that does all of that automatically and publishes the whole list to the group. And they open sourced the code for that and just shared it around because it helps everyone. And that's just a small example, like that stuff is going on all the time in the community. Like everyone is there to sort of help each other succeed. It's really cool. Like there's a lot of other stuff in there as well, though, in terms of what's the actual asset. The big one I wanted to talk about was the role of AI in all this as well. Because I think like, you look at what AI is doing and the value of an answer to a question is kind of going to zero, right? Like I think we have probably a slightly longer runway than most businesses because, the average of all the trading content on the internet that the LLMs are trained on isn't great. But eventually they will catch up and that the value of those answers will go to zero. So the product for us is it's not about the knowledge, it's more the operation. So the community is one part of that operation. The community gives you the support, the judgment, the guidance that you're not really going to get from an AI. But the other side of that are things that help a trader operationally. So things like, research-ready data sets that we maintain on our infrastructure. We have a bunch of strategy information served by API. Infrastructure that supports what members actually run. And we couldn't really do that when we were a small community, but as we've sort of grown, as we've grown a little bit, there's a really interesting flywheel that I want to talk to you about as well, that kind of funds the growth of that infrastructure that sort of helps everyone. So the shared infrastructure economics are interesting. It's like, AWS for startups applied to solo trading, which is really, really cool. Like people couldn't, the cost to run what we provide for the members would run many multiples of what we charge. So that sort of value proposition is really strong as well. So
that's super interesting because obviously you're in this market that you can see how like AI is so applicable to collate all this data, synthesize stuff really quickly, automate things, and then you've got this really powerful technology, and then you've also got this really strong community. So you mentioned like the community capital because it's almost a hive mind of all these different people, all in the same mission, trying to achieve the same goals. And then you're coming together as a community to figure out like what's working. People are sharing stuff when it comes to like, like that tool that you mentioned. So I can see how that's a really powerful thing to have as an asset for the business
for sure.
in this crazy time where, AI is just, taking over the technological landscape.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we're not there yet in our field, but there will come a time when the AI can give you a pretty good answer. Like, could give you an answer that I would give you about a trading problem. I don't know, we're probably a year or two away from that. But the answers to those questions have never really been the product for us. We've always been more about the broader operation. Like the community and the knowledge is just one or two parts of that. So much more to it. And I think there has to be. In fact, I think like you really need to lean into that whole, commoditization of knowledge thing as well. So we're doing things inside the group where we're building like an AI agent that can go and like retrieve, our content, which spans back, sort of 7, 8, 9 years now, pull out stuff that's still relevant, summarize it, provide the references so people can follow it up. Essentially, now that I think about it, basically replacing me as a person providing support on Discord, but it won't. I mean, I'll still be in there hanging out and stuff, but it's just a much more efficient way for people to get those answers rather than relying on me. So really, really leaning into that stuff. Anything that can help people do what they need to do more efficiently. Finding the right answers is just one of them.
And I mean, you said like the community half runs itself now anyway because of everybody else that's in there helping each other. So it's like you're optimizing for that anyway, and then you've got AI coming in to, like you say, it could potentially replace so much of the questions and stuff that you're providing, but it's only because it's trained on that data. It's only because it's trained on the unique data sets that you have, and that's kind of like the value there. I see that as like you say, that community capital and the data that's being trained over such a long period of time. What else are you optimizing for? So when it comes to robot wealth, with everything that you've got going on, what are you truly optimizing for?
This is a really good question, and like I don't want to make this sound like I planned this from the start. I think I just sort of naturally gravitated towards this without really thinking about it too much. But now I do think about it quite a bit. So you can tell by the fact that we, actively trying to filter people from joining our membership, that we're not trying to maximize revenue, we're not trying to maximize members, not even really trying to maximize my audience, right? Like I'm just putting useful things out into the world and seeing who's interested in hearing them. Certainly not maximizing like an exit valuation or anything like that. So for me, it's like this really interesting philosophical question where work and business overlaps with the rest of my life. Like I work from home in an office that my architect wife built for me on our property. And so the lines for me between work and family and everything else, they're not, well, I was going to say they're blurred, but they're not really blurred. They're kind of non-existent. I literally had to tell the kids before we jumped on to do this, like, you need to leave Dad alone. Don't run in here and interrupt this interview like you did for the last one. And I've never really seen my work and my life as two separate spheres. So really what I'm optimizing for is happy life, I guess, which is some weird combination of like interesting work, financial success, of course, is a part of that. Autonomy is a massive part for me. Great people to work with. That's a huge one. Like I'm literally, basically I'm trying to scour the internet for people who maybe think like me or think in a complementary way to me, who can challenge me, who will bring some value to what we do, and have the right sort of, the mindset and the right attitude and all of that stuff. There's some like idea about like I want to be doing useful things. I want to make sure that it's durable into the future. So, it's a much, this is really interesting. Like it's a much bigger conversation about business and where business sits in relation to everything else in your life. And for me, the two things are very, 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 very linked. Like I don't want to be one of these people that, exits a startup and retires and then kind of wonders what I'm going to do with my life. Like I'm trying to do the things I actually want to do with my life right now. Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to sound like I've got that balance right because, you talk to my wife and she will tell you that I definitely don't have the balance right. It's, you mentioned before about the community kind of running itself, that sort of, makes you think of like, what's that image of like the duck going along the, smoothly gliding across the lake. But when you look under the water, the legs are going crazy. That's kind of me. So, it's, I don't want to underplay the lack of balance in my life, but certainly it's not for want of effort in trying to optimize the things that I really care about. And I mean, one thing I didn't put in there was like family life and community life as well. So, I coach all my kids in their sport. I'm on the board of our school council, things like that. Like I just want to be involved with the community, with the family, and business to me is not separate from that. Like business is just one part of a bigger life. Yeah. So yeah. Interesting question.
No, that's really interesting. It's really interesting to me because I've been going through that same thought process, like whether I capitalize on building something technology wise with AI right now, like, and for exit value, or is it about the lifestyle? So it's kind of like, these philosophical questions about lifestyle, how business fits in. And I'm the same, I'm very much the same as you. Like my girlfriend will definitely say I'm not balanced in my life. I haven't quite got it right yet, but I'm getting better, like I'm finding that balance because I've been through phases where I've just been all about work, all about growth, and it's just all, and then everything else suffers. I don't know how you even, manage that with kids yet, because I'm not ready for that yet, but I'm like, I've started thinking about that and thinking, man, I need to sort some, get some ducks in a row and get that balance more optimized, because it's like my brother says, you've got to really be like, you've got to let go of this attachment that you've got to time when it comes to like bringing kids into the world, because your time is just not your own anymore, like so much of it. So finding that. So yeah, really interesting. Like, so, and like we opened up talking about how you basically left like the corporate, the city, bought a plot of land. You said your wife's an architect that's basically designed. Have you designed and built your house? Is that?
No, we bought our house. It was built in 2015, but she built. So we're on a bit of land out here, and she built an office, like a little office building for me.
Right,
and she built like a 2-bedroom cabin as well. That
nice.
I've got some friends living in there at the moment, but like that, the intent is that as the parents get older, they can maybe come down and stay out there a bit.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Do you? How sort of like, are you out in the country? Because you mentioned, you've got kids and they go to schools and stuff. So you're not like super removed, like off grid? There's a
no. So we live. So you might have heard of a place called Margaret River. So it's kind of known as a great surfing town.
Okay.
It's known for wineries as well. So yeah, it's really, we've got beautiful like natural beauty around here. So you've got like the beaches, you've got the national parks, stunning, and the tourism and the wineries and whatnot bring a real sort of diverse flavour to it as well. So it really ticks so many boxes. It's literally got the best of country and city living in my view. The kids have no idea how lucky they are to be growing up in a place like this. Literally. The kids have just finished school and they've gone surfing for the afternoon. They'll be back in like 2 hours. They're going to. My wife's taking the car. They're going to drive down a little 4-wheel-drive track. There'll be no one else on the beach. They'll surf for a couple of hours. Probably have a barbecue in there and then come home. It's a great life.
Yeah, nice. I love that. Yeah. That sounds awesome, and that's cool because I see the similarities to like the life that I have where I am. I'm just basically on the coast, like outside of Barcelona. So you've got that city to go into, but I'm an hour outside, just on the coast. The border to like the south of France is just an hour away. So I'm on that coastline. I've got amazing countryside out here. And my business is all online as well. And my brother lived in Sydney for 5 years, and he's so he'll definitely know like where you're talking about because he's like traveled up and down and done surfing and like worked in a surf camp for a little while. And he said like there's some amazing places to live out there when we were kind of like looking, but I was like, it's just too far away from like our family, like over this side.
It is too far from everything. Like, I have a couple of guys in the business who help me out, and they both live in the US, and like the time zones are just a nightmare. Like, I live in the worst possible time zone for interacting with people in Europe and the US. But whatever, it's it's a trade off, right? Like, and you're getting into. But you know what? That's the good point there is that like I think a lot of people who go into business, they kind of inherit the goals and the objectives from, I don't know, whatever startup culture or whatever. Something I learned is that you can be a little bit more deliberate. Like we're so lucky to live in this age where we can have a bit of choice about where we go and what we optimize for. And I think if you stop and think and you can be a little bit deliberate about it and really design something that fits with how you want to live your life rather than with I mean, some people love the grind and all of that stuff, and it's just not for me. But the point is, you want to think about that rather than just inheriting it from the culture.
Yeah, totally agree, and I share the same views, and that it's what these online remote businesses where you can do that, like just gives you that like you mentioned, the autonomy and optimizing for autonomy is a huge thing for me too. So really cool.
Yeah, the flexibility thing as well, right? I work a lot. Like I work a lot of hours. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
But the flexibility is incredible. Like I don't know anyone else who has the time to coach. You know, I've got 3 kids and I coach all of them in some capacity.
Yeah.
You know, be involved with community initiatives. You know, it's just, yeah, it's an incredibly, you know, blessed and fortunate life, but it's also deliberate. Like we created this for a reason.
Yeah. And I can imagine, you know, you say like you work a lot, but it sounds like you're, you know, like it's not a work, it's not a grind, it's not like you're forced to do this thing. Like you've basically built something that you want to do, and it's almost like I can imagine, you know, your wife like almost has to pull you away from it at times because it's yeah,
exactly right. Like I'd be doing this either way. So
yeah.
For a little bit of additional effort and a hell of a lot of, you know, additional payoffs in terms of, not just in terms of financial rewards, but in terms of the people that I've met through doing it, I can do the thing I love and share it with some other people and run a really fun business.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah,
what's your biggest challenge right now? Like, what's the big thing that you're working to solve?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So there's always like operational stuff that I'm trying to make better. Like a lot of my time is, not a lot, but more time than I would like is taken up with the operational side of running the business. The less of that I'm doing, the more like research and trading related stuff I'm doing, the more teaching and spending time with the community. So trying to maximize that really is always the tension. Biggest challenge, I guess. Oh, what would be our biggest challenge right now? That's a really good question. I mean, getting ahead of the AI stuff is really important, I think. Like, you know, if our business was just a knowledge business that we, you know, were selling courses and things like that, then I don't think that's a very sustainable business. Even though I think, yeah, we do have a bit more runway than most, I certainly wouldn't view that as a durable business. So it's finding new and interesting ways that we can help our members with stuff that AI can't really touch. So yeah, it's like, I recently I've got someone working for me part-time on the infrastructure stuff. Absolute guru with this stuff. And luckily enough, here's one of the great benefits of a community like this is that you can do your recruiting through the community. So you've got a pool of people from all sorts of walks of life there who are very, very invested in what you do. And so I was able to sort of put the call out to the community and say, hey, I'm looking for someone to help me professionalize the infrastructure that I'd sort of built over the years. And he's, you know, been doing this as his day job forever. And he's revolutionized the quality and the robustness of all of the infrastructure that we build on. So yeah, I mean, that was a challenge that I think we've just sort of crested and overcome. The next challenge will be, you know, building that out further in ways that really benefit the community even more.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good point as well about, you know, building a community where you've got that trust capital, as you say, and then you've got all these skills. You've got this basically like massive community asset to go to and ask, you know, like who could do this for me, because you're on the same path. You share the same views. You've basically, you know, almost shaped so many of those beliefs to be on the same mission, built the culture already, and then it's just, you know, like let's collaborate, let's work together on achieving whatever. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to prize him out of his day job for full time. So it'd be dream come true.
What kind of team size do you have then?
At the moment, it's me and 2 others. So I've got my infrastructure guru, and I've got you might have heard of Ewan Sinclair, or people who are sort of adjacent to the trading world will have heard of him. He's written a bunch of books about option trading in particular.
Okay.
Yeah, Ewan's brilliant. He's sort of, gosh, he's just, he's probably forgotten more about this stuff than I'll ever know. And he's sort of in the community every day, like answering questions and helping out. He runs a live session every other week as well.
Oh wow!
But it's just the 3 of us. I'm trying to convince my wife to come and give me a hand with some stuff. But she's also trying to build her architecture practice down here as well, so it wouldn't be really fair. But yeah, I do need some help. I do need to grow the team a little bit. In fact, you talk about challenges. That's probably the challenge. Is like, how do I build a team that can, push the business further, where the whole business has been about me up until this point. What tasks can they realistically do? What am I comfortable offloading? What do I need to keep in house? So yeah, that's probably a real challenge. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure the answer to that question just yet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so many business owners will relate to that challenge, like, because there's so many facets to that problem. Because there's the internal mental, like, almost you built so much of this solo, and then letting go of control, like figuring out like what's the right things to let go, where are you best to fit, and like, can you trust other people to come on and basically take over your baby and do it as well as you? There's so much of that going on, like, internally, but then also the genuine, just, like, finding those skills and the right fit people, going through the painful process of, maybe bringing people on that aren't the right fit, and you've got to, go through that and filter out, like you say, like pretty much what you've done for filtering out people for the business, for the, the students, the members of the community, doing that internally. So yeah, it's definitely a big challenge.
It's a really hard thing to let go of too, like, because, like I think I said before, like our whole business is really built on a high degree of trust. But it's kind of more than that as well. Like the members that we've had for years, like they have seen me go so far above and beyond to help them and to give them what they need. They know, either explicitly or they sense it, that I really, really care about them and their success. And it's hard for me to imagine bringing in someone from the outside who would have that same level of care. So, and you know what, maybe there is, and in fact, I'm sure there is a very natural capacity for a business like this. Like, I don't want this to scale to, thousands of members in the community. Like, we've got a few hundred in there right now, and I'd be really happy to get a couple hundred more and then close the doors. It's, like I said, it's never about maximizing revenue in that sense. It's maximizing what I can realistically service in a way that gels with everything else in my life.
Yeah. It's a strong position to be in. You're not coming from this of, like, you've got to figure out how to get enough buys in to pay the bills and cover expenses, overheads and stuff. And you're in a situation where it comes from a place of abundance, because you've built this the right way for you to fit your lifestyle. And it's really cool.
It's true. Like, it's I'm making it sound a bit neater and everything than it really is, though. Like, I've certainly got that balance wrong over the years, where, like, I've tried to optimize too much for the touchy-feely stuff and not enough for the revenue stuff. And found myself in awkward positions a couple of times over the journey. So it's a real balancing act. Like, you can't neglect one of those things too much. I wanted to mention, I thought this might be useful for your audience, like this flywheel that we sort of landed on inside the business. It's an unusually clean and efficient sort of flywheel for funding the growth of the business. Not that I want to grow it too much, but for funding the growth that we do want. So you imagine, like, I'm doing the research that I would be doing anyway. I'm publishing, useful things about that research. Most of that goes to the community. A little bit, I'll post a little bit of that stuff to the public as well. Like, obviously I won't share everything with the public that I'm sharing with the community, but it's enough to sort of attract people who are interested in that sort of work and see the value. So you get a couple more members come through the door. Those new members might fund some more research, maybe some new data, some new infrastructure, which then those members might contribute new ideas as well, which then makes better research on that new data that leverages the new infrastructure becomes possible. So, this has taken years, right? But the product and the work really have started to sort of reinforce each other over the years. So it's. I mean, I think for a while there, I was probably on the bit of the creator treadmill where I'm like trying to get a blog post out every week and doing all the community stuff as well. But I don't want my job to be like a content creator. Obviously, like I want to be doing the trading stuff, or I want to be spending most of my time on that stuff. So so we're trying to build this thing where the product and the work reinforce each other and make each other better over the journey. So it's really. But the thing with that is, right, it takes a long time. Like there's no. Your growth doesn't go like that. Your growth goes like that. It's so slow. But that is what it is. You kind of accept that.
Yeah, you don't want to be that the content creator that's just subject to like Google or like at the algorithms like social media and the SEO, and you've got to push content out because that's just takes you away from that passion and what you actually want to create and the actual value. So I like that. I like how you're thinking about product and then pulling that out into the marketing as well. So it's the product, the value becomes the marketing, but with probably more the intrigue to bring people in rather than the actual how to of stuff. Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably if you went and read my stuff online, you could probably piece together the entire course that we make people pay $400 for. And if you want to do that, that's totally fine. Like I have no problem with that. But we try to keep like the time sensitive stuff internal to the group. But anything that's a little bit timeless, like those lessons about questioning the assumptions that we teach in the front end course, like really to write about that stuff online and. But not on the content creator treadmill is not a good place to be. And for a business like this too, where it's so dependent on me and the energy I put into it, it can't be a chore. Like if it becomes a chore, how is that sustainable? It's got to be a labor of love. Like if you don't love it, then you need to hang up the boots and do something else.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. What are you most excited about right now? Like with everything that you've got going on, what excites you the most?
What excites me the most? This is quite technical and quite niche, but we recently, or not recently, this started about 5 or 6 years ago. We built out an equities long short quant strategy. Basically, I won't get into too much detail about what that means. It might not be that interesting to your audience unless you're a trader nerd. But it was a product of a long research process that evolved and took a few interesting turns, and that now is it's performing incredibly well. Like we took it live at the start of this year, in its current evolution, and I'm sure we just hit like a bit of a lucky patch because it's vastly outperformed what we would expect it to. But its performance will drop back to more in line with what I expect it to in the long run, I think. But we'll take the wins while they come. But there is enormous scope to improve and grow and diversify that thing further. Like we've really, really scratched the surface with that. We've already got some outside interest in we've already got some outside money funding that, getting a bit of interest for it as well. I want to be really careful about taking too much outside allocation into it because that's going to sort of cut the members' grass a little bit. We're really, really careful about that. But just the potential of that and the fact that other people see the potential as well is really, really exciting. Like we're sort of probably a fifth of the way up that mountain, and it's a really exciting one. Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's a US hedge fund allocating to that, right? Is that amazing?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's really cool. That brings a whole new set of challenges. Like when I left the trading world in Sydney and came out here, I said I don't want to manage other people's money because that just carries a whole lot of stress. And I mean, it's one thing to lose your own money, but if you're losing other people's money, then that's a whole lot of stress. And of course, you have your ups and downs in trading. You're going to make money, you're going to lose money, but that's just it's a level of stress I didn't want in my life. But someone convinced me to do it. And it's definitely the right fit. Like the team on their side is very, 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 very much aligned with what we're doing and understands the where the membership and everything fits into it. So yeah, so that's a really, really exciting development. And I'm really leaning into that as well. Like if you'd asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said no, I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's been a really good, really good development.
Nice.
Yeah.
Amazing, Kris. You've shared some really good stuff here. I really appreciate this conversation. For the listener that's a year deep in the hype cycle and just starting to get skeptical about what it is that they're doing, what would you tell them, and where can they find out more about you?
Yeah. Great question. So if you're a year deep in the hype cycle of trading and you're skeptical, your skepticism is your number one asset. You know, it means that like you have actually learned some things from the market, and you're really ready to take the next step. So if you have that skepticism, then hang on to that and embrace it. If you love the markets, don't give up because you've been burnt by different things. It just means you need to find the right approach. The other one, don't believe anyone, including me. So if you hear a trading idea from someone, or if someone makes a claim about the market, don't believe them. Don't believe me. Test it yourself. So learn these like basic data analysis skills that make you that give you the ability to figure stuff out for yourself. The two most useful things you'll do. So that's what I would say to that person. And if they want to find me, robotwealth.com. I write on Substack under. My newsletter is called Edge Alchemy, if you want to have a look at that as well. But everything I publish there is also published on robotwealth.com. So yeah, come say hi.
Amazing. Kris, I really appreciate this. It was a great conversation. You shared some really good stuff. So yeah, I'll be watching your growth and the growth of Robot Wealth with great interest.
Thanks, James. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much.
Awesome.